Hello, and welcome to Guilty Conscience, a brand new true crime podcast. And today we'll be discussing one of the most chilling and perplexing unsolved murder cases in American history: the death of JonBenet Ramsey. This case has captivated the public for decades, not only because of its sheer horror, but the many questions that remain unanswered. JonBenet was a 6-year-old beauty pageant star who was found murdered in her family's home on the day after Christmas in 1996. Today, we'll walk through the details of Ramsey's family, the events leading up to JonBenet's death, the investigation, and the many theories that have emerged since. To understand the case, we first need to look at the Ramsey family. JonBenet was the youngest child of John and Patsy Ramsey, a wealthy, seemingly all-American family living in Boulder, Colorado. John Ramsey was a successful businessman, serving as the president of Access Graphics, a subsidiary of Lockheed Martin, a company specializing in computer software. By the mid-1990s, John had built a fortune and was well known in social circles, living an affluent lifestyle. He had children from a previous marriage, a son and 2 daughters, one of whom had tragically died in a car accident in 1992. Patsy Ramsey, JonBenet's mother, had previously been a beauty pageant queen herself. In 1977, she had won the title of Miss West Virginia, and she raised JonBenet to follow in her footsteps by entering her into child beauty pageants. Patsy was described as a doting mother who took great pride in JonBenet's pageant career, where the young girl often appeared in glamorous costumes with full makeup and elaborate hairstyles. JonBenet's older brother was 9 years old at the time of the murder. Burke's role in history has often been sidelined, though he has to become the subject of speculation of the death of his sister. JonBenet, named after father JonBenet and mother Patricia, was a bright, energetic child with a large personality. She was frequently seen in pageant photos with sparkling costumes and a megawatt smile, but beneath the seemingly pitch-perfect life of the Ramseys, a horror tragedy would unfold. Let's move on to the discovery of JonBenet's body. It was the day after Christmas, December 26, 1996, when the Ramsey household turned into a crime scene. The family had returned from a Christmas party the night before, and according to John and Patsy, they had gone to bed like any other night. Around 5:30 a.m. on December 26, Patsy Ramsey claimed to have woken up, gone downstairs, and discovered a handwritten ransom note on the staircase demanding $118,000 from JonBenet's safe return. The note was strange, lengthy, and addressed to John, stating that the kidnappers would contact him later in that day. The ransom note referenced foreign factions and demanded a specific amount of money that, oddly enough, was very close to John's recent work bonus. Panicked, Patsy immediately called 911 at 5:52 a.m, reporting that her daughter had been kidnapped. During the 911 call, she sounded frantic, and she never mentioned checking on JonBenet's whereabouts before making the call. Police arrived quickly and the search for JonBenet began. Now, here's where the case takes an even more disturbing turn. Despite the family reporting a kidnapping, JonBenet's body was eventually found inside the house, something that shocked the investigators. It was John Ramsey himself who discovered her body in the basement around 1 p.m, nearly 7 hours after police had just arrived. JonBenet was found with her hands tied above her head, mouth gagged with duct tape, and a nylon cord around her neck. Her body was partially covered by a blanket. John picked up her body, removed the duct tape, and carried her upstairs, further contaminating the crime scene, which had already been compromised by family, friends, and police officers moving freely through the house. Let's move on to the autopsy and the cause of death. The autopsy revealed horrifying details about JonBenet's death. She had died from, I don't know if I'm going to mention this correctly, asphyxiation due to strangulation, a horror way to die, and had also sustained a severe blow to the head, which likely would have rendered her unconscious before the strangulation occurred. The garrote, fashioned from a nylon cord and a broken paintbrush from Patsy's art supplies, was tightly wrapped around her neck. Additionally, there were signs that JonBenet had been sexually assaulted, though the extent of this has been debated. Some forensic experts suggest that there was evidence of chronic sexual abuse, while others argue it may have been part of a staging of the crime. The manner of death was ruled a homicide. Nah. This is getting really intense now. After they ruled it as a homicide, we now need to move on to the investigation. The police investigation. From the very beginning, the investigation into JonBenet's murder was plagued with problems. The initial handling of the crime scene was chaotic. Due to the assumption that this was a kidnapping, police allowed friends and family to walk freely through the home, contaminating potential evidence. The basement, where JonBenet's body was eventually found, wasn't immediately searched, a critical oversight in this case. In the days following the murder, suspicion began to fall on Ramsey's family themselves. Many believed the ransom note was too long and bizarre to be genuine, and theorized that it might have been staged by someone inside the house. Handwriting experts analysed Patsy's handwriting against the ransom note and found some similarities, though it was never definitely proven that she wrote the note. Forensic evidence also came at a point of contention. There was a DNA found under JonBenet's fingernails and in her underwear, but it did not match any members of the Ramsey family, complicating the case further. This led to speculation that an intruder may have been responsible. However, there was no signs of forced entry, although some theorized that a window in the basement, which had been partially opened, could have been used by an intruder to enter the home. That's as far as the investigation got. It was a very chaotic, complicating investigation for the police, because it was the whole crime scene was severely contaminated by the family and friends. And also, it's weird how they didn't look in the basement one bit for 7 hours, and it was the dad who eventually found him. So let's move on to the theories about this murder. Over the years, two main theories have dominated discussions of the JonBenet's Ramsey's case: the intruder theory and the family theory. The intruder theory consists that someone broke into the Ramsey's home, kidnapped JonBenet, and murdered her in the basement. Proponents of this theory point to be an unidentified male DNA found on her clothing, and the possibility of an unknown assailant used the basement window to gain access to the house. One popular suspect in the intruder theory is John Mark Carr, a schoolteacher who in 2006 falsely confessed to JonBenet's murder. He claimed that he had been in love with JonBenet and had killed her accidentally. However, his DNA did not match the evidence found at the scene, and his confession was widely dismissed as a hoax. Another person of interest was a local man named Bill McReynolds, who had played Santa Claus at a Ramsey holiday party. Some found his behaviour suspicious, but he was never formally charged or considered a serious suspect. That is nuts. They've literally got the person's DNA right in front of them, but they can't find it. I'm going to guess it's because the person, if this theory is correct, the person who intruded into the house has never been on a database, I'm guessing. They are squeaky clean. But it's kind of weird that a person who's squeaky clean went into this house, raped, murdered, kidnapped this woman, this little girl, this 6-year-old girl, and hung her up in the basement. But there was also a ransom note, which makes it even weirder. So he killed her and left a ransom note. Maybe it's just dropped out of his pocket. But surely, even if she got kidnapped, there would have been some struggle that the family would have heard. I don't think there. Let's move on to the family theory, but this intruder theory is second at the moment, but I need to hear the family theory. No, the family theory suggests that either John, Patsy, or Burke Ramsey was responsible for JonBenet's death, and that the ransom note and other elements of the crime scene were staged to cover it up. Some theorists believe that Patsy Ramsey, in a fit of frustration or anger, may have accidentally killed JonBenet and then staged the scene. The ransom note and the strange circumstances surrounding the discovery of the body have led some to believe that this crime was of panic and it was not planned at all. Handwriting analysis of the ransom note, though inconclusive, did point to possible similarities with Patsy's writing style. Others have speculated that the 9-year-old brother, Burke Ramsey, may have been involved in the death of his sister. Some theorise that an accident, possibly during a sibling fight, led to JonBenet's death, and the parents covered up for their son. Burke has consistently denied any involvement, and his parents staunchly defended him. In 2016, Burke appeared on Dr. Phil, where he spoke publicly about the case for the first time, once again asserting his innocence. After hearing those two theories, I think the family theory is way more plausible, I guess. And after hearing what Burke just said, or the theorists on Burke, where Burke killed his sister by accident and the family staged it, I think that's more likely, in my opinion. Imagine this, Burke's killed his sister. The mum and dad are absolutely appalled. They can't lose two children in the same day. Burke can't go to prison, or Burke can't go to like a kids prison. They cannot lose two children. So what they do? They stage the death of JonBenet. They write a ransom note, which is obviously has some similar style to the mother's, Patsy's, handwriting. So in my opinion, it's more likely to be the family theory instead of the intruder theory. Now, after those theories, let's move on to the aftermath of the death of JonBenet. Years of investigation, media coverage, and endless speculation, the JonBenet's Ramsey case remains unsolved. The Boulder Police Department struggled with criticism about the handling of the case, and multiple grand jury hearings failed to lead to any charges. In fact, in 1999, a grand jury voted to indict John and Patsy Ramsey for child endangerment and obstruction of justice, but the district attorney, DA, declined to prosecute, citing insufficient evidence. In 2008, the Ramsey family was formally cleared by the Boulder District Attorney's Office, thanks to the advancement of DNA testing. The identified male DNA found on JonBenet's clothing was determined not to match any of the Ramseys, leading the DA to issue an apology to the family. Patsy Ramsey tragically passed away in 2006 after battling cancer without ever seeing justice for her daughter. In conclusion, the murder of JonBenet Ramsey is one of the most confounding cases in American true crime history. More than 2 decades later, her death continues to haunt the public's conscience, largely because the truth remains unsolved. Whether it was an intruder who slipped through the cracks of the investigation or someone within the Ramsey family who hid the truth, we will never know. As we close today's episode, we reflect on the fact that despite all the tension, theories, and advancement in forensic science, justice has not been served for JonBenet. But our case reminds us that true crime is not just about mystery; it's about real people, real families, and the pursuit of truth. Thank you all for listening to the first ever podcast of Guilty Conscience on the death of the JonBenet murder. If you have any theories or thoughts on the JonBenet case, feel free to share them with us in the comments, or tag us, or make a video, whatever. Feel free to share us. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe. Peace.